You ready?
Yeah, let's go. All right, here we are. Our very first True Brew Bobcast here at Cafe Détente, end of Détente Road in Youngsville. Dudy, if I can just take a minute for the viewers to tell them, when I was thinking about what kind of content I wanted to do for a podcast, there's 2 million podcasts out there. And, I wanted it to parallel what we're doing at the Cafe Project, and that is where we get local conversations. And, the other thing is that I love history. I love to talk about history. People love to talk about history and their perspective of history. So there, here in Acadiana, there's a lot of different perspectives of history. We want to talk about that. We always want to talk about where we're going. Everybody has an idea where they want to go. But I like to focus the majority of our time on what's happening today, presently in Acadiana. What's our cultures doing? How they talking? Are we moving forward? Are we getting better at it? Because Acadiana is so rich with it. I'm talking about hundreds of years of these cultures that have learned to live together and blended together. The more I read about it, the more I talk to people. We have a very robust Creole community. We have a Native American community right there with the Chitimaches. If you say the African community, that's 100 sub cultures of it. Same way with the Cajuns and Vietnamese. We've got a beautiful Laotian community right up the road. Hispanics have really been a big part of our community for a while. So the podcast, I said, what profession or who can I talk to that really has their finger on the pulse of our community? And what better profession is a barber or someone who's in a salon and people get their hair done and those things, and they just talking about everyday life. So this particular series I'm starting with is called Shop Talk. Shout out to my great buddy John G, who helped me land on that name. Gives us a little versatility, not just stuck in a barbershop. It can be anything. And so my very first guest is Mr. Dudy, and he has his own barbershop. We're going to talk about that, and welcome aboard, and thank you for being my first guest, man.
Man, I'm honored to even get an invite like this. Never thought that I would get invited to something like this, but yeah, I've been doing this 35 years, pretty strong since I was 18 years old. I'm in my 50s now, so I met a lot of people, different races, cultures, the whole 9 yards.
So where's your place? You're on the north side of town.
I'm in Lafayette on the north side of town off of Moss Street, 101 Dudy Street, and I've recently just moved there a little over a year now, but I've been working on that side of town for 30 years.
So you just moved right up the street?
Down the street, 5 minutes from where I originally worked for my dad right at 30 years, so I decided to go ahead on and just give it a shot and start my own.
Let's just start with a haircut, man. What is it about getting a fresh haircut? Why does that make you feel so good? What is it about it, man?
Well, it's almost like those ladies that go out and do their nails. That's the one place that a lot of men with their sons, nephews go and they just can walk in the barbershop, and that's kind of their time to enjoy themselves, get a nice haircut, and feel good about themselves, other than just putting on some clothes. Without that haircut, you almost could put on anything.
It's not right.
No, that's the finishing touch.
So is it still a kind of a rite of passage? You mentioned bringing in your sons or whatever. I remember going in with my dad to the barber shop. And is that still a thing where you're introducing your son not only to how to get a haircut, but how to behave in front of mostly men?
Believe it or not, there's a couple of things that I incorporate when different men bring their kids, and depending on the age, but all the way from 2, 3 years old. We always try to shake their hands just to go ahead and let them know that they're in a safe place, a nice place, and we do acknowledge them as well because they're just as important. In my eyes, I pretty much want those kids to grow up with me. The parents are important because that's who paid for the haircuts, but those kids, I build a relationship with them, shake their hands, give them a hug, and then moving forward, you see those kids grow, pretty much move on. They continuously always come there, and even if it's just to stop by and say hello, it's a big thing for me. You know.
So I know you see things and you pick up on cues. We talk about personal cues that you pick up on. You know, talk a little bit about that maybe. You ever you see a kid come in or whatever. I mean, you kind of sense maybe his self-esteem's not quite right, or maybe he's developing, he's becoming a man. What does the whole group in the barbershop do to sort of develop that young man?
Yeah, some of those kids coming in, you can kind of see their demeanor, the way they walk in. So it's my job, and I do say it's not just a haircut when you come, through those doors. So our job, as far as me and the other guys that work with me, we always try to uplift whoever it is that may be in there. And you can kind of tell whenever they need to be having just a conversation and ask them how their day going, or do they play sports, or if they like school, and just things of that nature. I think those kids, they really, really need that. And there's a lot of single parents that's out there that send those kids to the barbershop, and some of them do need that I shouldn't say father figure, but male figure more than anything.
So you're a few years behind me, but what's the boys looking like these days compared to when we were growing up? I mean, you sort of, I guess our parents did the same thing for us. They not like we were. And when the more old school you get, the more you sort of critique that young crowd. But in your opinion, what's the difference between a young man these days and when we were growing up?
Well, those young men, actually, they're really teaching me because there's certain things they do in their eyes. It's a respectful thing, but in my eyes, in my time, growing up, that's where I just step in and I pretty much, hey man, let's shake hands. What's your name? I kind of do that because this generation now, they don't have the acknowledgement as far as what we used to do whenever we walked into a place. In my time, in my 50s, so whenever you walked into somebody's house or somebody's place, you always acknowledge and at least say hello, ask them how you doing, things of that nature. And I don't think these kids really are pushed to do that in this day and age.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know if it's because of maybe social media. They're more in tune to those cell phones, and I think that has a lot of influence on them as far as them just not catching on to that stuff, because there's a lot of kids that's being raised by cell phones, or they're looking at YouTube or social media, PlayStation 5s, all that type of stuff. A lot of those kids are being raised almost by the television.
Well, me and you was talking last week, and I said, if you were to pick your top three people to influence you, and I think you mentioned your grandmother, or was that your great grandmother?
Great grandmother was one of the ones.
What was her name? Lorraine.
Lorena Duffy. That was her name. That was one of my big influences.
So why was that the first name that popped up and you talked about her? What did she do for you?
She was the first one we saw when we woke up in the morning, because we moved in my great grandmother's house when I was born there. So that was the first person that really spent a whole lot of time with me, with my parents going to work. Mom and dad at work, great grandma stayed home and kind of tended to us. And so I just saw how she moved around, how she worked. She didn't know how to read and write, but she did show some love, to us. We didn't realize how poor we were growing up. We didn't understand that, but we did understand the love that she gave us growing up.
So she just got y'all straight on your manners and all that stuff. I mean, what was a day waking up with Lorena?
Wake up in the morning. First thing you need to do is fix that bed before you get up, before you leave that bedroom, and do all your bathroom duties. And always made sure that we were neat and clean. And that's pretty much what we realized. And she was the one that taught us how to wash dishes and put the dishes up and pick up around the house, all that type stuff.
So does our kids, do they not have that anymore? I mean, what do we where? I'm trying to figure out what we losing here. I mean, it's we hear things, we look at stats and all that stuff, but are we losing that, man? In your
I
opinion?
think, in my opinion, we are because the grandmothers are younger now. The grandmothers are younger now than we were growing up. Grandmothers are real young. They have, I mean, young ladies and men having kids at 15 years old, 14 years old. The grandmas they're a lot younger than we grew up.
But back then, you could live off of a one income household. Most of our dads worked or grandpas worked, and the grandmothers, uh, they were running the household and doing other things. But do we see it this day and age of the modern family? Is that a factor of it too, where both of them's got to hustle and work and all those things?
Dads have to work overtime to make ends meet, that's for sure. I'm seeing that pretty often. I'm seeing people working offshore, they're driving trucks cross country. Um, Dads for sure, and then moms are picking up part-time jobs and stuff of that nature. So some of those kids are kind of stuck with trying to almost raise themselves to a certain extent, literally,
Well, that's dangerous.
literally.
Well, we was talking about that too. I mean, I think kids these days, they have to filter probably 100 times more information. I mean, we were playing outside and swinging on ropes and all. I mean, and it's a great thing. Technology is a great thing. But if I think about the information that they process on a phone, um, I guess it's kind of early to tell, but I mean, how much weight do you put that in on the development of our youth right now?
I mentioned that a little earlier. The tech world has hurt a lot of those kids. They don't go outside anymore. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I saw kids actually jump rope, riding bicycles outside, teaching them how to fly a kite. You rarely see that. I mentioned it in the barbershop, but a lot of them younger kids, they laugh it off and say I'm an old man. So it's a lot of those things. I haven't seen a man or raising their kids even teach them how to take the training wheels off a bicycle. Just you don't see that anymore.
I was talking to my sister. She's been teaching in New Iberia forever, and she had this young guy come in there. He's a young teacher. He must be real smart. Um, but he's in the MMA. He's tatted up a little bit, and he's very quiet. And she sat in to observe him, and she thought it would be a train wreck, but it ended up where him being quiet, they were attracted to him, and he went straight to problem solving. And in other words, he's reaching them at the level they want to be reached to be educated. And so maybe it's time. Maybe our education system's antiquated. Maybe it's time that we start looking as a community on what is an education. Is it straight academics? I think we all know once you get out, there's a lot more to it than that. Uh, what would the barbershop crew say about that?
Well, I always incorporate that a lot of kids, their parents want their kids to go to college, and that's to put that college sign in the yard and let the neighborhood know that their kids going to college. But there's a lot of other avenues that could probably fit certain kids that actually really don't want to do college. And whether it's to go to school to get your CDL license, your barbering license, or just going to trade school to become an AC guy or a concrete finisher. It's a lot of things that's out there as far as trade school is concerned. So I'm an advocate of kids actually getting this into hands-on, opposed to just going to college and just getting that college degree.
Yeah, they make some money too, bro. I mean, if you built anything any time lately,
I could speak on myself alone. My intent was to go to college, and I did the trade school, which was just a year. My intent was to get that trade school degree, and then go to college afterwards, immediately afterwards. and just worked part-time doing this and getting to college. But once I got into my field, uh, I didn't even have the time to go to college because online classes today is way more prevalent, you know.
It is, and I tell you, I don't know if you get your bang for your buck anymore. It costs a lot to get in school, and if you don't, if it doesn't plug you into a job, that paper, in my opinion, probably isn't worth as much as it was before. You know.
Well, what I'm hearing right now, the guys that finished college right now, the thing that they talk about all the time is talking about paying them student loans back. That's the main
Yeah.
conversation when they get out of school. I mean they talk about that, they follow that. That's a big deal.
Let's get to some barbershop talk, man. What's going on with Coach Prime, bro? What everybody's saying about him?
Man, Coach Prime is
So what's the magic, man?
Co-
why is the entire country fixated on what this guy's doing?
Man, I think Coach Prime is doing just what you mentioned a little earlier. Coach Prime is actually getting to those kids right where they are. That he's not going above their head, and the conversation with those kids are exactly what they want to hear. He's on their level. I mean,
Man, I heard it this weekend. They got 5 stars calling them, bro. He's gonna be recruiting, bro.
well,
Huh?
just with the sunglass thing that happened with Colorado State this weekend. The coach said, "Well, when I approach adults, my parents told me to take my glasses and hat off." Well, guess what Prime done? Prime went on ahead and got a sunglass line, and he made $1.2 million this weekend.
Oh, he's a genius, but I can say this. Me and Prime's the same age, so I saw him. I was 2 feet from him coming out, and he's just at first I thought he was just a loudmouth, but I tell you, the older I get, the more genius that guy comes. I mean, he understood a brand, he understood uh, the value of a brand, and he understood how to promote it. But the thing is that you can do all that when you can run a 4 flat 40, bro. Right?
And played two sports in one day.
Oh, I know.
Professional. I mean, and I'm looking at kids, they walking in the barbershop now. They have Colorado shirts on and everything. So
But it's not superficial. He goes deep, man. What is he doing to? I mean, he didn't he like get rid of 70% of the player. I mean, he started from scratch, right?
he started from scratch, and he really pushes those kids to be who they think they can be. He also is pushing education on them. He's making sure that those kids are accountable. It's pretty much what we try to do at the barbershop. Maybe not to that highest level, but just as far as just face to face. So he's doing well with that.
So what is the barbershop saying about? Are they big Coach Prime fans? I mean, they like what they're doing. I mean, are they talking about his formula?
There's a lot of people that didn't really think he was going to do that well going to that program because he went there and they guaranteed him, I think it's 28, 29 million. He didn't have a quarter. They didn't even have that money. Colorado raised that money because they saw what Coach Prime was bringing to the program. Yeah.
Now he's game of day, and the stands are full, and
Man, I wouldn't bet against Coach Prime. After this weekend, the game this weekend, I stayed up till 1:30 watching that game. And I looked at all the stars in the stands and stuff like that. Man, yeah.
well, I was able to watch the game, and I tell you, somebody says, "Why are you bragging when you was a 24-point favorite?" Well, number one, everybody's bringing their A game. Number two, you're not going to play perfect every week. But what impressed me the most is there was like a minute 20 left, and they pinned them on the 1 yard line. Now, that takes discipline, training, and commitment to keep your composure to drive down and win that game. Did you think the same thing?
I thought the same thing. And I won't lie to you. The numbers don't show that that's successful at that time. But one thing that I did see before the game when they talked about him being favored, they interviewed him on television, And he said, and the main thing that really, really sticking with these kids and sticking with people, he told everybody, Lee Carso and all of them, Kirk Herbstreit was doing the interview, and he said, look around. He said, this is not a black thing. This is not a white thing. It's a we thing. So just with him speaking on that, man, how you not be a fan?
I get it. I think he's crossing all kind of lines there, and he's demonstrating it. I mean, look, the guy had plenty of money. He was in the booth. He could have it could have been easy for him, but he went all the way back. I saw him on the interview. He started coaching these kids in Pee Wee football, and I think when he went to the Hall of Fame, like 8 or 10 years, he brought a bus of his Pee Wee football. So now these kids are in college, in D1 colleges, and they gonna that his son, the quarterback. What's his name? The son. Shador is he's gonna be a first round pick,
And then
man.
Shallow, the other son, he had a
He
big
picked six.
he had a pick six. He had a big tackle on the play. Not just that, there's a lot of NFL players that actually are starting to like even when he was at Jackson State, Michael Strahan, all those kids wear Strahan suits. I mean, he's teaching them how to dress. He's teaching them how to carry themselves. He's really, 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 yeah. He has his hand on all those kids.
And I saw he's calling on his peers too. I saw Michael Irvin and Warren Sapp and all those guys out there going with a whistle on that.
He got them. He had them rappers out there that have money. He's making them even they're accountable now.
Accountable. He's holding everybody.
He's
accountable.
making them accountable. It's okay to cheer, but cheering doesn't hold any weight other than a cheer. I mean, a 5-year-old, I mean, a 2-year-old knows how to cheer, but when you make them accountable and they actually like putting their time in with money and all the other stuff. I mean, Tom Brady, a lot of people don't realize he took his time out, and Peyton Manning, they took their time out to work with Shador. Now Mel Kiper Jr. said before this game that Shador is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL draft if he comes, if he, classifies himself going to the draft. So, I mean.
Well, he showed a lot of composure. Look, it's one thing when you're winning and you got everything's going for you. When you're behind and you can hold yourself together and make the plays he made, that was very impressive.
Look how respectful his kids are.
Oh yeah.
His kids are so respectful. His kids know how to handle an interview. His kids are neutral on things that matters to just the coach. They stay out of all that stuff. So, yeah.
Emotional intelligence.
Yes.
They're emotionally intelligent, and I tell you, hey, I'm a big fan. I've always been a big fan, and
who signs a number 1 player in the country that plays both ways to a historical black college? Who does that?
Right.
I don't remember anybody.
Right.
That has the ability to even. But when I checked into reading and stuff, and I realized that his son and Travis were real, real good friends. But again, that friendship went even further because I'm sure Deion promised him certain things, and if he do what he's supposed to do, those dreams are coming true so far.
So I know you cut some D1 players' hair before. You've cut professionals' hair.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any of them you want to talk about? And what would they think about Coach Prime? And walk us through your experience with what is their thought process when they decide where to go and segue into the NFL?
Right. Trey Harris is one kid that comes to mind. I've been cutting his hair since he was 7 years old. He's from the Youngsville, Broussard area, and he's playing for Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, and he was at Louisiana Tech, and
he hit the portal.
He hit the portal, and he said, "Mr. Dudy." He's been calling me that since he was 7. Again, we try to teach them good dialect when they talk. So he said, "I have to go somewhere, and I have to play better competition and play at a higher level because I want to get to the NFL." So what he did was he got in the portal, and he took trips to Texas A&M, LSU, of course Ole Miss. It was about 5 different trips. And he just realized that he felt like Ole Miss was his best option. And his first game with Ole Miss, he had 4 touchdowns and on 6 catches, and
I missed that.
He just had last weekend. He didn't play this weekend because his first three passes from weekend before last, he caught another touchdown. He caught 5 touchdowns in 5 quarters. He has a strained MCL now, but he made a good decision. And again, very respectable kid. He likes Coach Prime. He likes what's going on. We talk pretty often. And with that being said, he's just one of the kids that just came to mind that pretty much Coach Prime has a big influence. Now, he never thought about going to Colorado because I don't think any of us would have known that Deion, other than Deion and his staff, thought that he would have did what he's doing right now. Colorado only lost one game last year.
And you can only fill so many slots, man.
And
You know what I mean? So it's gonna be some tough decisions made. But
That's right.
what do y'all think, or what does the barbershop think about the portal situation? Because it seems like the portal is becoming more and more the way to go. If you don't get picked to a D1, or even if you do, if you go perform at a smaller college and you put up some big numbers, those coaches love to jump on a portal. So if a kid's not mentally or ready or emotionally ready or even physically ready, as some of those, kids, would you agree with that? It really doesn't matter where you go. You just got to go perform and they're going to find you.
We speak on that a lot because it's all about sports in the barbershop. And now a high school kid, unless he's a 5-star kid coming out of high school, they're going to be a third option. The kids that's there already that's on scholarship, the transfer portal kids are going to be next because of the maturity. It's what I'm hearing some of the high school and college coaches say that comes through. They say it's the maturity of a transfer portal kid coming in, opposed to a kid that's just coming out straight out of high school, just coming out of mama house. So that's pretty much a third option, unless they're a 5-star. Now, if they're rated lower than that, then again, they go to JUCO. That's the option that's going on. The new rule that came out is I think you can transfer one time, and that's it. So in my eyes, I'm all right with that. That stops a kid from transferring, 2, 3, 4 times while they're in college. So that's a big deal. So now the kids that's in high school, like we talk about in the shop, your education is going to be very, very important.
Man, I got to tell you, what hurts my heart is when you got an outstanding athlete and he doesn't come to a in-state school. So, and I know they're making their best decisions for where they want to go and do. But what's y'all experience in the barbershop? Why would a kid not consider an in-state school before they go out of town?
Most of the kids that I come in contact with, the ones that want to go out of state, are the ones that's pretty much they just have a single parent household. It's pretty much the ones that talk about getting away from here. That's the ones I always.
So it's more of they ready to move out of here and get a fresh.
They're figuring a fresh start, better opportunities. What they're figuring instead of staying here and seeing the same old mundane thing like what's going on now. The kid from Opelousas, Keon Coleman, he went to Opelousas Catholic. He plays for Florida State. That's the kid that had 4 touchdowns on LSU.
The tall kid?
The tall kid.
He's from Opelousas.
He's from Opelousas Catholic. I know the kid. Talk with the kid. Good friends with us. And his reason was because Michigan State, which was where he went at first, they allowed him to play 2 sports, which is basketball, college basketball and football. And Florida State is allowing him. I don't know about after what he's been doing this year. He may not even get a chance to play basketball, but those out-of-state schools, they kind of giving these kids, they have to give them something to influence them that want to come. Mm-hmm. And that's one reason why he went out of state. That's the key. Trey Harris, he went to La Tech first. That was in-state. But that's just an example of why he left, for instance. The kid Malik Neighbors that plays for LSU. Trey Harris was the quarterback at Como High School, throwing the ball to Malik Neighbors. Now, Malik Neighbors is the top receiver this weekend.
He had a great weekend.
Right. But then the quarterback that was throwing him the ball in high school, he's the top receiver at Ole Miss.
Receiver?
Yes, Trey Harris.
He was quarterback.
That's right.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a few things that we talk about in the barbershop that we know that a lot of people that's not,
Right.
in that barbershop atmosphere. So that's a couple of things that you miss out on because that's the conversations we always have. Things of that nature. So we ride for the people from here, big time.
Any of them come back to the barbershop?
Oh yeah, all the time,
Right.
all the time. They do.
And so they leave, and I think it was Coach Prime was talking about this. Um, he was saying, "Y'all, you're not the same man when you got here. So when you go home, you have a higher level of responsibility of who you represent and how you carrying yourself.
But now that they turn into role models, they really do.
That's a lot of pressure for a 19, 20-year-old guy, right? Or girl.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, just in general, just that atmosphere in itself, it's big time. I mean, the top pole vaulter is from right here in Lafayette. He
Yeah.
went to Lafayette High.
Yeah.
He's in the Olympics. He's #1 in the world,
World.
not the United States.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
As a fan, it's real easy to forget that these are 19 and 20-year-old, very, very young. And I guess we're watching the game and you into it so much but those are, what were we doing at 19 or 20 years old with that much pressure on you? So that takes a lot of skill and training and we need to keep that in mind.
Well, at 19 years old, I was blessed to go on tour with Whitney Houston. I was
All
19.
right, we got to get on that, bro. All right, so great segue. I want to know because I heard just a quick story. So bring us to, you said some woman ran into you and how, I got to know a little bit more about that.
I just did a guy's hair from Lafayette. He worked for FedEx, and he delivered some mail to this house. And this particular woman was there with her husband. And whenever he walked up to the door, she was at the door and noticed his hair, and asked him who did his hair. He called me on the phone from the residence. I gave her the address where I was located. She came in. I did her hair.
You was here in
I
Lafayette?
was in Lafayette at my dad's shop. I did her hair that time. They were here 2 weeks. She came back the following week. I did her hair again, and then
So she was from here too?
she was actually from New Jersey, and her husband was from Lake Charles, and they had people that were visiting here in Lafayette. And she
So
was
about
from
what
New Jersey.
years were this? Late 80s?
Yeah, late 80s. It was 89, 90, something like that. I was fresh out of barber school, and
So what caught her eye, bro? Y'all was cutting lines back
yeah,
then.
I just did what I usually do. I just try to give the best effort, and I just gave a good haircut on the guy that caught her eye, and she was like, "I like it." And then when I did hers, she liked it, and she complimented me. And lo and behold, I didn't know who she was when I first did it the first time, because people don't really open up to you just on the first opportunity. Then the second time, she just told me who she was. But sometimes when you hear stories like, "Well, I'm Whitney Houston's beautician. I've been doing her hair for years." I was like, "Really?" So I was kind of stunned because you here in Southwest Louisiana. So then I asked her, I said, "Well, what you doing here?" She told me her husband was from this way.
So, so she just said, "All right, can you show up? Tell me some of the countries or places or cities that you
She
were."
asked me to show up the first time to Houston, Texas. She didn't share with me what I was gonna do. She said, "Do me a favor and bring your tools with you, and you can come in the concert and you'll be able to come and watch it for free." I said, "Oh, no problem." So I did that, and I cut 3 guys' hair, and I did their hair, but I wasn't really paying attention to who they were. I'm 19 years old. I wasn't into
Right.
that star-studded stuff like talking about it. But lo and behold, about an hour later, those 3 guys were the R&B group After Seven. So when I looked on stage, I was like,
I just cut his
I
hair.
just cut their hair. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So she told me that she was very appreciative. So what she did was she had them cut me a check, which I didn't really expect that. They did. I told her thanks and I appreciate it. The following week, she called me. She said, "Look, I need you to meet me in New Orleans." I did the same thing. Then after that, she said, "Look, I need you to go back to New Orleans and get your passport." I said, "For what?" She said, "Because Whitney Houston said she wants to take you to a European tour with us. You're going to be working." So man, I jumped in my vehicle. I drove to New Orleans so fast. It's hard to get a passport on the
Yeah.
spot.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So once I got there, they gave me a phone number to call, and I gave the phone to the lady that was doing my passport, and they gave me my passport in an hour.
Really?
In an hour, and then once I did that, once a week I was going. I went to New Jersey. I went to New York. I went to I went to New York. I went to South Carolina,
Now,
North
you was
Carolina.
cut. You was cutting like her dancers and
I
all
was
that.
doing the band members. Is what I was doing. That's
The
the main thing.
band
I was
member.
doing the band members, and
Did you get to know
I got to know a few of them. There's a few of them that's they're on TV as we speak. A lot of these people share the same musicians, kind of, sort of.
So were you in there mixing it up like with the makeup people and all that stuff? Or?
Actually, no. What I would do is I would do their hair first, and then they would go to the makeup people after me, after I do what I had to do. It was two separate places that we would do that. And then I got a great opportunity, and I was able to go to Europe. I've been to La Coruña, Spain, Munich, Germany, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, Paris, London, all those places.
So you followed her that year on tour.
Yes, sir.
Did you get to see or engage with her any? I bet you she was insulated, huh?
Yeah, well, I kind of did. There was just a handful of people that really could talk with her or actually engage with her because we were 96 people on tour, so that's a lot of people to keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to talk with her periodically, not often, but she would always give me a message. You're doing a good job, young man. Keep doing what you're doing. And I would always just keep it sweet and short, and I would just say, thanks. I appreciate everything you're doing for me. And I would just move on.
That show business is something, though, huh, bro? I mean, what goes on behind the scenes and what the people see,
Um,
it's a business, right? I mean,
that's
it's
a,
business.
this lady told us, we were 96 people, the first meeting we had once before we left, she said, everybody's here to see me and not y'all. So what that means is do your job because everybody here is replaceable.
Oh, so she addressed everybody.
She made sure she let everybody know exactly what I just said. And so at 19, 20, 20 years old, I understood that the first time. Growing with my grandmother, great grandmother, when she gave directions one time, I understood.
That was it.
Oh, yeah.
So I watched the documentary knowing that this this podcast was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Whitney fan?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
So what a remarkable story, but you can't help but feel your heart go out to Whitney and the way it all ended up. I mean, what's your take on it? Looking at it, I mean, what would you how would you describe Whitney's story?
Well, with me being there on tour live, not what I heard, I was there engaging, and Whitney couldn't go to a grocery store and shop. Whitney couldn't go to a bill place and pay a bill or go get a car wash. So Whitney pretty much was locked up.
But I mean, if I understood the documentary, she was just managed, and it just seemed like, and the documentary showed it. I mean, she was, clearly at least a bisexual. She had a someone who she loved, according to the documentary, and then she had to put on this big show.
Because it wasn't acceptable.
It wasn't
back
acceptable, and then Bobby comes in. You blame Bobby, bro?
No, sir. No, sir.
A lot of people blame Bobby.
They
man.
they do, but I could say for sure with me being there, nah, that's not Bobby.
So her and Bobby were together when you were there?
Just starting out.
Just starting
But I
out.
could say for sure that that wasn't all on him. I won't lie.
Boy,
to
the
you.
media put it
They,
on
they really do
him,
because
bro.
it's my prerogative, and he puts on that bad boy look. That was just to sell himself as that way. But in actuality, me talking to him, a lot of that stuff is on camera. That wasn't his fault, not at all.
I guess when you're managing that much money and it's on one singer, but again, just looking at it fresh, she was the most. She still to this day got more awards than any other artist. I mean, and she she passed up the first to pass up the Beatles and Elvis and everything and sales and all that stuff. So, man, what a lot of pressure, but it just seemed from the outside looking in like she was self-destructing, man. You remember the feeling that?
Yeah, and you know, she got into movies and stuff, so that tour stuff had slowed down because the influence of her being in movies with Kevin Costner and stuff. She started getting into some acting and stuff like that. So she really was doing well with that, with My Bodyguard and all that. But then I could see, because I was there, but I could see stuff starting to change. You could look at her, and I never forget the Grammy Awards when she sang, and she looked so frail, you know. And I knew, and I'm sure people knew by just looking at her, but she was really, really, really
Drugs was
suffering.
down to getting in there and
Yeah,
self-medication
yeah,
and
and again, like I said, she couldn't be out in the public like us, like a normal human being.
now the documentary kind of showed the dad trying to hard fist manage it. Did y'all see him around, or did you
Never we
feel his
Yeah,
presence?
yeah, well, we never saw him because he never really toured with us. It always had tour managers and stuff, but yeah, and then when he separated from her mom and stuff like that, so that took a toll on her as well. Real close with her mom and her dad, but we never really engaged with him at all. He wasn't nowhere around.
So looking back on your days, what did you take from it, man? What did you learn coming from a small town to such a big exposure like that?
Well, I never flew on an airplane before that happened. So when I left, I had to really really mature quick because when I went, the lady that got me the job and stuff like that, I knew her, but it wasn't like I was engaged with her every day. So I had to really mature and I had to learn how to take care of myself out there on the road because you're on the road. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a job. That's not a. It looked real easy on TV, but it's a real job. There's an itinerary we have to follow. You have to be here at a certain time. You have to do this. Everything is all calculated, time frames. So, but it's a job. It looked real easy. We had over 30 concerts in Europe, and everything had to be It was tactical, everything. So all the way down to the food we ate.
So who's the coordinator behind all that stuff? Who's juggling all those balls? Is it
Well, they had a tour manager, and he was in charge of a lot of that stuff. Her best friend, she had some stuff to do, some things to do as well. And of different people, I had different managers for different departments. Again, there were 96 people on this one tour, so it clearly wasn't just one person that could just manage that stuff. So they had put people in place, and
now Whitney had a full band with her? Like so when they
yes,
played live, she had
yes,
pianos and everything was live.
everything was live.
So it wasn't
No,
music
no
behind
music
it.
behind. Guitar player, bass player, I mean the whole 9 yards. Drummer, everybody, dancers, everybody had a part to play, but it was nothing was pre-taped or DJ. No,
So that was her raw voice.
that's right.
How powerful was that being close to it? Like, I mean, was her voice as good as it
I'll tell you
sounded?
how powerful it was, and the example I'm gonna give you is you're gonna understand. We were in Europe, and in London we had 2 weeks. I think it was 10 concerts in a row that was sold out in London, and every night I couldn't count how many people, when she would hit those high notes, people would actually, I'm looking at them, pass out, and they would just pick them up, and just, the crowd would just move them all the way to the back toward the ambulances. I saw people
Come on, man.
literally pass out in front of me. I'm standing right on the side of the stage, and I'm looking at these people.
Oh, it triggers some
I
emotion,
couldn't
bro. I
believe, I
mean,
mean, I'm looking at people really just like go out.
yeah, yeah,
So when I saw that, I said, you know what? This is for real.
yeah, it is.
It's for real.
No, she was. They describe her the voice of a generation, and then she had it. But boy, she had some good blood with her, right? I mean, all of her aunts, and
She just had a good team with her. The team knew what to do because they were in the same field with what she was doing, Everybody was singing. Everybody was, yeah. She grew up in the church, but as it went, I mean, people got her to really, really go out there and got into that R&B. And I mean, till today, I still haven't heard anybody
Hit it
not
like
not
that.
like her.
Yeah.
No knock on anybody, but I'm just gonna be.
And she was such just a beautiful woman, man. It's like, golly, how
And
many
she
things you
was,
can be
yeah,
blessed
she
with.
just was just, she was genuine. And don't get me wrong, nobody's perfect. So a lot of people are gonna point the finger at, like Bobby Brown and all that. But when it's all said and done, um, a lot of times it was her.
And she
You know,
loved her daughter,
yeah,
bro.
she
She
loved.
tried to, she was just,
When you're an icon like her, I mean, the world. That's like Michael Jackson.
you in jail almost,
Yeah,
man.
and that's why I said in the beginning we started talking about it. It's like she was locked up. She literally could not go out and try on a pair of clothes, like shoes or a shirt. She couldn't do it. Everything had to come to her. So you in them four walls. So what you think gonna happen?
Hmm.
You have to be really, really, really mentally strong to be able to deal with that.
No, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think that's awesome that you were able to do that and share those experiences with us. I mean, not too many people get that angle on such an icon, you know?
Yeah.
And we miss her because, heck, it's been almost 10 years now or more.
Yeah, it's been a while. The documentaries and stuff come up. I always cringe when I look at those things. You're not gonna get everything out of those documentaries, but with me being there, I wasn't on every tour, but I was on a tour. So I saw some stuff. I saw some stuff that was, as a 19, 20-year-old seeing that type of stuff.
But isn't that crazy how the universe works? Where if that Federal Express driver doesn't pull up to that dude's house or that lady's house where she was staying, and the chance of her being there is very because she was just visiting.
And watch this. Even worse than that, there was three of us that was cutting in there. Any one of us would do his
Oh
hair.
yeah,
He just fell in my chair at the time.
that's what I'm saying,
So
man. It's
even that,
right.
you
So
know.
it was meant to be, man.
Yeah.
It was good.
And for the shop, I mean, the Daily Advertiser did a story on me, and Lafayette newspaper did something, and the news did something, and what I did, I didn't even like take the credit for it. What I did was really push my dad's shop. That's
Hmm.
what I did. It wasn't me, it was us,
Hmm.
and that's what kind of springboarded our shop to get even more business because people wanted the story. They wanted to see what was the big deal because is he that good? Are they that good? So then that's where everything just kind of like it really blew up for us. But I made sure that I didn't just talk about me. I talked about the entire shop
Sure.
because it wasn't about just me. So I didn't want to have that selfishness because that wasn't right. It would be different if that was just my client, but it really wasn't. I just got lucky and was the one that did his head for that day.
Hmm.
So I'm.
Well, when it comes to barbershop talk, and what is what's being talked about the most about our community? Because I like the cafe project. We're really trying to. What can we do in the community to um, celebrate each other's not only cultures but we're all living together here. What's some of the things that you think the barbershop's talking about that we can address and talk about today?
Um, a lot of people talk about diversity is what's going on right now that they're talking about in the shop right now. There's a lot of people that's especially living here in Southwest Louisiana. I'm starting to see a big change now. Even in the barbershops. At one time, I mean, the barbershop where I work at, where I grew up at, it was 100% black people that was coming. But now that percentage is going down. Now it's starting to shift. Now we're starting to see white people coming. We're starting to see Asians coming through there now. We're starting to see a lot of Hispanics that's coming.
Is that because the barbershop clean look is in style, or is that
That that
what do you?
that that the area where I am, people are starting to see where it's located, and when they look at the barbershop, you don't know who's doing hair in there. That's the first thing that I really wanted to have, and I wanted that curb appeal. And and I cut the hangout stuff and the smoking outside and the drinking outside. We don't have any of those type of things. So a lot of people are like, well, let me stop by here. And we starting to get a lot of diversity, a lot.
I guess it's probably 7, 8 years since the whole Kaepernick deal and Black Lives Matter and all that that's going on. Let's talk about that a second.
Mm.
Let's. It is when I digested the whole BLM. I went. I took a journey on that. But when it was all said and done, the way I understood it and appreciated it was that, hey, and I had some of my black friends tell me this. They said, man, it's two standards when it comes to policing, and white people just don't understand it, that we we are held to a different standard. We are not given the benefit of the doubt. So how tr- what am I missing there, and where are we right now when it comes to that? What's the barbershop talking
Well,
about?
with the Kaepernick situation first, I can say this: when Kaepernick first took a knee and took a stand for whatever he was standing up for or whatever he was doing, a lot of people didn't realize that he never made an announcement that he was going to do that, right? And so the media is who really tapped into that and really kind of blew that up, right? So when we talk about that in the barbershop, we talked about that, man, so long. We had so many conversations, and we educate each other when we just like what we're doing now.
Hmm.
But then there was a part of the national anthem that we don't rehearse, and it clearly says, "Not for the hireling nor the slaves." That's the part that we don't recite, and that's the part that Kaepernick was taking a knee on. So in actuality, if you're not reading the whole national anthem, then it's not for everybody. It's what he was taking a knee for. Because I did like you, I did some research and I'm like, wow, what's the big. But I understand with that, as far as that's concerned. And that thing trickled down all over the country. So
So did we advance? Did the BLM, the knee taking and all that, in your opinion, or the barbershop's opinion, did we advance, and did it make a difference?
in actuality, in the barbershop, look, let's face it, I'm just going to say what go through my shop. We still reading about black people still beating up each other, killing each other, robbing each other, stealing from each other. We're still doing it. That younger generation does not educate themselves or even understand what that is, what we're talking about. So the ones that I do come in contact with, especially the youngsters, I try to make them understand that they have to think before they react. That's the key. You can't prove something to somebody that's in the same position with you. So in actuality, a lot of people won't agree with me, but I'm just saying what I run through and what I hear. Look, we're still doing the same thing over and over and over.
But when it comes to policing, is the injustice still there, or do you think the our community and the country has gotten better with it?
I think, as far as the policing is concerned, police officers putting on those body cams and stuff of that nature, that kind of helps subside some of that stuff because there's some things with that body camera on,
Yeah, you got it down.
you can't do. So I think it's gotten better. I'm not saying nothing never happens, but since they're making police officers put on those body cams, and now they're even putting dashboard cameras now that you can buy for your own personal vehicles as
Absolutely.
well, front dash, back dash. So with some of those things with technology, I think in my eyes, from my experience, what I see, it's gotten to me. I think the policing is concerned. I mean, they have to be accountable. Again, that word accountable comes up again with those body cams and stuff. That's what I think. You know, that's just my opinion.
Well, and it goes back from Coach Prime to you running a tight show in the barber shop. It really, we're all raising these kids, and we're all play a part in how we conduct ourselves. And I, what I'm hoping to do is open communication and talk about things that should be talked about on a
Daily, really
daily
basis.
basis.
I agree.
And I think honest conversation, you know what I mean? We should be able to talk about any subject, and at the end of it, we may disagree, but on some parts of it, but sometimes we're all a product of how we were raised, man.
Correct.
You know
And
what I'm
and you
saying?
just can't run from it. It is what it is.
It is, but if you're expressing yourself and your feelings, and I'm open to understanding it, well then that's the whole thing is to be open and move this whole thing forward. And what I'm hoping to do here, and I appreciate you helping, is with all of these different cultures, we don't celebrate it enough. I was reading a book. This lady, doctor, she's a doctor, Elistra East. Sorry about that, mispronouncing it. But she did a deep study and wrote a book and have several writings on the Creole culture. And one thing now that I'm having these conversations is I'll start with myself. My grandmother was a pure Cajun, and she was not allowed to speak French. And so, in one generation, wiped out an entire language. The Creoles took a whole nother route. They were black Creoles, they were white Creoles. They all had these social levels, and um, and she goes into great detail. I advise anybody to read that book. Amazing. Um, but for the most part, they were forced in some generations to become or act like something they weren't, just to get an advantage because they felt they had to. The Native Americans, the Chitimacha Indians, I talked to one of the councilmen, and I said, "Hey, how's the tribe numbers? Do y'all have a good library and log?" And she said, there was a time not that long ago where they disassociated themselves with the tribe to get a better position in society. I mean, myself, I spell my name Luke, Luke. My my the first guy that came over, Antonio Luke, was Luca, Luca, from Naples, Italy, and I had to change his name.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh,
And so I hope this is what I hope. I hope we're at a point right now where none of that is necessary anymore, where we celebrate exactly who we are and where we came from and talk about it and just, again, celebrate and enrich each other on it. And I think that's where the power is. And I think it starts with good barbershop conversations, man. And would you, I know I went on a rant right there, but
oh
what's your
no.
thoughts on that?
I totally agree with you. We have what I call, and it's said a lot, it's generational curses. You pretty much, if your parents feel a certain way, then you have to be that way as well because that's what you experience and that's what you see. If we could break that generational curse and not continue following down the same road, a lot of times that road is going to be a dead end. If we could detour and get on another road and do something else, because that's what we have. We have to break that generational curse. We have to. We have to. It's just we have to stop doing the wrong thing. And you know when you're doing something wrong. We all we sometimes we get stuff confused as far as the word mistake opposed to choice. You know, you drop a cup of coffee on the floor, that's a mistake. Drunk driving, that's a bad choice. So once we understand some of those things, I think that we can honestly break some of that stuff, man. That's just I talk about that pretty often in the shop. Our conversations in that are real life conversations, you know. So it's just like with the police and like what you said. You know you don't have insurance on your car. You know your brake tag on your car is past due. So when the policeman stops you,
He's doing his
you
job.
pretty much understand that it's not like, you know, you. It's not like it's something that you don't know. So sometimes it warrants a policeman stopping you to save you. So that just, you know, what I go through and what I talk about in the shop, you know. And the examples that some of the parents give to these kids, you can't just blame the kids all the time, you know. Sometimes they have to play the cards that's dealt. It's up to them if they just continue playing those cards or throw the cards in and throw them in a fresh hand.
Right.
It's up to you.
What do you believe about second chances, third chances, fifth chances? I mean, I'm sure you got had people come through the shop, and it's just like you know. But what's your thoughts on that?
In my eyes, it depends on what chance we're talking about. You know, if it's life threatening, of course, no. But I think that people do need another opportunity instead of using the word chance. They need another opportunity. It depends. It depends how genuine that person is. And it depends on, you know, what the situation is. I won't lie to you because sometimes it warrants somebody to be chastised, you know, as far as a punishment or taking something away. It depends on what it is for them to learn a lesson so they think about it before they do it again is what I'm saying.
I think about like a parent has to be a parent. Yeah, I got to be a dad. I can't be your friend. I can't be you know. And so sometimes I call it the cool uncle. And I think, Duty's just being the cool uncle sometimes. You're the guy that says, hey, man, you know what? Did you realize you're talented in speaking? Do you realize you could be an influencer? I see this in you. I see that in you. And sometimes a parent's so close to it, they just trying to keep them driving straight. Where does the barbershop come in there, man? I mean, it seems like that's a place to go meet some cool uncles or
Man, they got cool uncles and aunts sometimes. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Yeah, and that's what pretty much my position is a lot of times because believe it or not, I start off with a handshake with these kids, 2 and 3 years old. Now they're 17. They're 18. Now they're hugging now. And that's the influence I have on those kids, and those kids have on me as well. So a lot of times it's not just a handshake. They walk up to me and hug me at that age. So when they're doing stuff like that, just that little hug goes a long, long way. You know, not just for them, for me as well. When I think about it, it makes me teary eyed because there's so many that I've done that with, and it takes the masculinity out of some of them.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, the pants falling down and not wearing a belt. And so my approach to even a kid without wearing it, with their pants being hanging down and without a belt, my approach is way different than what a parent would tell that kid. My approach is way different. And the way I approach them, it's not like from a parent's perspective, you know? And then it makes them think, you know, look, when you're walking in a place of business, not everybody go for that. But I understand your style. I know you like Lil Wayne. I know you like Drake. I say ain't nothing wrong with that. But I say they got some people in here, they just feel like it's not part of the dress code, is what I put. Oh, well, I understand. I say, but look, once you walk out of here, think about what I'm telling you. Again, I don't tell them to pick up their pants right then and there, but I just give them a scenario
Right.
and let them think about it. Because again, we older,
You're not trying to embarrass them. You're
right?
just trying to
And
right.
if I do that, that's not in front of anybody. I'll wait till they get in the chair, and then I'll whisper in their ear and talk like that.
I had somebody tell me that before. It's like talking about the role of the mom and the dad, and talking about athletes. And I had a coach tell me that one time. I did a little coaching in middle school and all that when my kids were growing through. And he said, let me remind you, every one of those athletes, they playing for their mama.
And that's
they,
it.
they on their field. They playing for their
That's right.
mama. Their mama is who they trying to impress.
That's right.
And so, A, do you agree with that? And B, how are we today with that? How's the female influence on the male and the male influence on the young daughters?
Yeah, for in my case, a lot of the kids that's playing ball, they don't have anybody in the stands. I'm just gonna tell you what go through the barbershop, keeping it real. Some of mama or daddy not there for whatever reason.
So when did we lose that?
A lot of these single parents, again, especially the moms, some of them have 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 kids. Some of them really want to be there, but a lot of them are doing what? Trying to tend to the ones that can't tend to themselves. And then there is some that have a household with both parents there. They're mainly all at the games. They're all supporting those kids. It's not all bad, but the ones that don't, I mean, even the ones that don't show up. And so that kid that's playing, in actuality, that's the one we talked about a little earlier about going to school out of state.
Well, going back to Coach Prime, I saw a video. He said, when somebody was questioning Coach Prime about getting rid of all those kids, and they kind of had an opinion, and Coach Prime said, well, y'all got to know who I am. He said, my mother was a worker, and Prime's my age, so this goes back 35 years or more. He said, 40 years maybe. He said, my mother could not make one single game. And he said, my stepdad would have liked to, but he couldn't. And he says, I was an all-state, all everything.
He was all world, right.
And he said, after the game, no one was there for me. And so he says, I had to create a way to where I was impressing myself. And so, of course, he ended with, your opinion of me is none of my business. It doesn't matter.
And Bob, look, Bob, me and you talked off mic and stuff, and listen, you talked about graduation, that you're going to have to go to some graduation. Let me tell you something. There are some kids, their parents don't want to make graduation. That's the culture where I come from. So that's where, as a barber, every now and then I have to do what? I have to go to the graduation. Yeah. And I have to go hug them. And I have to go shake their hand. And I have to tell them I'm proud of them. I have a 19-year-old. And this is just an example of the generational differentials that we have now. When I got a scholarship, man, I told my mama, I told my dad, I told my uncle, I told my grandma, I told everybody. Well, my son had an academic scholarship. When I found out? In the commencement book. When was he going to tell me? And you're talking about parents. He's grown up with 2 parents in the household with him every step of the way.
But, I think that speaks to his confidence. Because he was so confident, he didn't feel like he had to boast. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah. And I guess for me, it was being more of a proud young man, opposed to boasting. Son, you just could have told mom and dad. So I found out about it in the commencement book. They call his name out for the scholarship in the book, all that stuff.
Man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
bro.
But maybe it was a surprise. I don't know.
Right.
But needless to say, he still changed his mind. Didn't take this. He didn't want to go to that school. So guess what? So he went to, he had to go to another school for whatever reason. So that's just an example of how the generations are just different. It's just different. Me and my wife still trying to figure it out, because my wife have to hone me down and say, look, we can't approach him like this. Mental health is serious now. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that you as a dad stop trying to push him because of what your friends might say or what your friends might see. Mm-hmm. You need to stop. So I stopped, and since I stopped pushing. He's able to just, sometimes he got to hold me down. My wife a little younger than me, so I guess she know a little better than me, and she can see stuff. So, yeah, it's even with two parents in the house, you just never ever know. Social media has a lot to do with what I'm saying. They care about what Instagram says and Snapchat and all the other stuff. I know about it, Bob, because guess what? All them youngsters in the shop, so guess what? I ask them all kind of questions. What's Snapchat?
Right.
I mean, yeah.
No, it's a whole different game, and it doesn't take long for those my kids to make me realize that I've been left way behind. But I know this: our generation was like somebody said the other day. Well, these kids are snowflakes, or they brittle. Well, we're the clouds they came from. So what did we do to create that? I think technology. I think it moves so fast. But again, the reason I started this project is I want to go back to old school communication. We're human beings, man. We're not meant to communicate through a device. We gotta see people's eyes and feels and get those soft skills. And what better way than to demonstrate it by setting up some communications where we can show that.
And that's where the barbershop come in at. You got to come get your hair cut. So I got to touch you. I got to hold your hand. I got to have a conversation with you. And that's what those kids are missing now. Like when I was growing up, man, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't even have, that, Bob. We didn't have pages. You had to make that phone call. They had probably one phone in the house. And you better hope that girl's still home or you're going to waste your time going over there. But now it's FaceTime. It's Zoom calling.
Yeah, back then, that's what I told my kids. A like meant, she said, yeah, when you ask her to dance. They don't even go on dates, bro. They all go meet up somewhere.
Just I said, just this weekend, I said, son, what you doing? Oh, Dad, I'm promoting. I'm helping promote something in KOK on by the campus. I said, okay. I said, how, He said, well, Dad, it's through social media. He said, nobody give invitations anymore. Nobody ride around and put stuff in the mailbox like talking about it anymore. They don't. Right. They really don't.
Right.
So again, they're teaching us as well. As well as we teach them certain things. Well,
look, Dudy, we'll shut it down. I know I took enough of your time, but next time maybe you can either bring a guest or we'll go a little bit deeper and try to talk about some things that as our community can progress and grow. Let's just talk about it, and you can cut my hair if I come next time. Man, bro. I just got a fresh bro. I'm gonna come on Saturday.
It's
man.
On me, man. Just come through there. It's on me.
Hey, Dudy, thanks, man. And let's keep it's called The Shop, and here on True Brew Bobcast. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time, bro. Thank you, man.
It's all good.